All right. So Jimmy Dore has recently broken his way into Twitter trending news for a claim that he's made. I think this is the video describing it. Let me see.
Okay, I want to show you this. This is about how we can get a Medicare for all vote on the floor
There
of
we
the House.
go.
I'm going to show you because right now, people who have lost their health care during this pandemic, 0 people in all these countries, 0 people in Great Britain and Canada and Finland and Sweden and France, and 0 people. America, 14.6 million people have no health care now.
I don't know where these numbers come from, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were true. American healthcare fucking sucks. It's indefensible. All right.
Than did before March. 14.6 million people have lost their health care.
Yep.
That's like if the entire city.
I guess I can't blame him for meandering when I do the same goddamn thing. Okay.
Lost pressure Ro Khanna and all progressives in Congress to withhold their vote for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker unless she agrees to bring Medicare for all up for a vote. It will take around 8 to 15 progressives, maybe even less, to pull this off. This is your leverage. Please use it. Force a Medicare for all vote. So you know this, right? And let me just say to Ro Khanna, I mean, I love cool flags.
Thank you, Jimmy. Is this video really 20?
There's bullshit answer.
Again, someone who doesn't.
Okay, somebody else. Here's the gist of it, okay? Jimmy Dore went on Twitter and he made the argument that AOC, Ilhan Omar, the squad, and other progressive Democrats should withhold their votes for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House, and that they should do so on the condition that they will only vote for Nancy Pelosi if Nancy Pelosi agrees to put up a bill for Medicare for all. And oh God, there are so many ways this can go wrong. Isn't that a good thing? Well, it sounds like a good thing. Guys, remind me, if Pelosi didn't get voted in, who would be next up? Who would be the next who would be the next speaker? Hold on. Is it Schiff? No, hold on. Fuck, I forget. No, hold on. I forget his name. Second. I noticed that I don't think I've seen a single name repeated once from you people. Hold on. Pelosi reelected Speaker by House Democrats despite party's losses. Wait, when is the next vote? Wait, unironically, when is the next vote? Pelosi reelected Speaker by House Democrats despite party's losses. Wait, that was in November 18th, 2020. In January? At the opening of the House. Okay, gotcha. Then who would be the next person? It would have to be a Republican, right? If all of the Democrats vote Pelosi and all the Republicans vote their own person, and then enough of the Democrats withhold no, it would be another person up from the Democratic Party. Speaker for the United States House of Representatives. Is that how it works? Well, that's what I'm asking for. Hold on. It's usually considered Hakeem Jeffries. Only the party votes. Okay, so to clarify, considered next in line to get... Okay. So to clarify, the Speaker of the House is guaranteed to be a Democrat because they have the majority. And then if they don't vote for Pelosi, it would just, the vote would be for another Democrat who goes next up. It's not like the Democrats and the Republicans hold simultaneous votes, and then if the Pelosi gets edged out by the Republican candidate, the Republican wins? Okay. No, that's not the Senate. The Speaker, always a member of the majority party. Okay, that's the information that I needed. Thank you. Let me confirm that. Is the Speaker of the House always from majority party? That's the critical information here. The Speaker in the House in the United States, by tradition, is head of the majority party of the House of Representatives, outranking the majority leader. Despite having the right to vote, the Speaker usually does not participate. Okay, gotcha. Both the major political parties nominate one candidate for the Speaker. The candidate from the majority party usually wins. Yeah, by tradition. What does that mean exactly? The Republican one is Kevin McCarthy? Gotcha. Traditionally, the Speaker is reckoned as the leader of the majority party in the House. The majority leader is second in command. Interesting. I wonder how that... Okay, so that's actually interesting. Hold on. I don't actually know the specifics. If nobody gets a majority of votes, they have another vote. So it has to be a majority. Okay. So it's not whoever has the most votes. It has to be a majority of the votes. Is that the case? So a Republican could never win as long as they are not the majority and as long as the Democrats don't vote for their candidates. Okay, that makes sense. So you need to have the majority. Okay. So what we're arguing about then, unless the Blue Dogs vote for GOP, I don't think that's going to happen. That'd be pretty ridiculous. So what we're arguing about then, and this is the premise that Jimmy Dore is laying out, and there are some elements of this that are defensible and some elements of this that are certainly not. So here's the problem, okay? Jimmy Dore is making the argument that AOC and the Squad and all the progressive Dems are actually like controlled opposition pieces of shit, and they don't actually represent you, and they only care about being establishment Dems. For some reason, Jimmy Dore is insanely anti-progressive Democrat. It's crazy how he goes on Tucker Carlson and he makes pleas to Donald Trump and he defends Tulsi Gabbard, who's basically a Republican, and then he does nothing but shits on progressive Democrats. And still hasn't talked about Tulsi's transphobia. And it's almost like he's not a progressive at all and that he's controlled opposition himself. But whatever we're going to talk about here, let's talk about political efficacy, okay? If we're going to talk about anything, let's talk about political efficacy. So what he's arguing for is that progressives in the House withhold their vote from Nancy Pelosi unless Nancy Pelosi agrees to put Medicare for all on the table, right? So the threat is you don't get to get sworn in as, you know, a Speaker of the House unless you're willing to carry Medicare for all with you. The problem with that is that this is a terrible fucking idea for a number of reasons. First of all, and let's be perfectly clear about this, okay? Medicare for all would die in the House. Even if a vote was held on it, it would die in the House. Of course it would. Democrats only control a slim majority, and not all Democrats are in favor of Medicare for all, the complete abolition of private insurance, okay? And even if it made it through the House, you think it's going to make it through the Senate? Best case Senate is split down the road. You'd need every single Democrat to vote yes in it. Not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Medicare for all is a really transformative plan. Now, I support Medicare for all. I don't like private insurance. I think it would be best to decommodify our healthcare industry, and that's how you do it, Medicare for all. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen just because you put it up for a vote. Now, here's what's actually going to happen if it gets put up for a vote. Are you ready for it? Right now, progressive Democrats are fighting for legitimacy within the Democratic Party. They've extracted some concessions. They've moved the Overton window left on certain points. But generally speaking, they're still a minority and they're still beholden to the interests of establishment Dems like Pelosi and what have you, right? Right. So, how do you think it's going to look to the majority of Democratic voters and to the media if the Squad and other progressive Democrats hold up Pelosi, who's generally supported in the Democratic Party, on the condition she put forward a bill that is statistically impossible to pass? That is an optics nightmare. And you know what's going to make it look even worse? What if Pelosi agrees and it gets like no votes? Doesn't that make us look like shit? They throw out some of their goodwill and some of their political efficacy. Pelosi ends up putting forward the Medicare for all bill for votes, and then because Pelosi still controls the party, most Democrats don't vote for it. Isn't the point to get a record on who supports it and who doesn't? Yeah, but you can already ask politicians what their position is for supporting or not supporting it. You can just ask them for that. You don't need to publicly humiliate progressives by having them toss away their political efficacy on a no-shot chance of getting Medicare for all passed, you know? The problem, fundamentally, the problem with this isn't a matter of how aggressively you're willing to challenge the establishment. It's a matter of how effectively you're willing to do so, okay? I feel like I have this argument all the time with people who say they vote or they make political decisions from principle. could have passed without abolishing private insurance. Well, Medicare for All is abolishing private insurance. So if you don't want to abolish private insurance, then you would want a public option, which is what Biden is advocating for. Biden is advocating we expand Medicaid, Medicaid, right? Not Medicare? Yeah, Medicaid to be a universally available public option so everybody can get government insured health care if they want to. The candidate nominated does not actually have to be a member of the House or either party, just be nominated and voting by majority. Well, as long as it's by majority, the Republicans cannot win. You've literally argued against the public option before. Yeah, I want Medicare for all, but it's not happening. It's not happening right now. That's the key. That's the thing. And I feel like I have this argument all the time about political efficacy, but you know how sometimes you'll argue with a lefty and they'll be like, I vote on principle. You know, I don't care. AOC should just do X. Why is she kowtowing to the establishment? And I feel like what these people are doing, okay? Imagine if they're like an anime pro tag. They're 16 years old. Their village has been burned down by Yusaka Kaji Kurui, okay? And they want revenge for their dying family, okay? So their strategy for getting revenge, okay, is they're going to point their body in the direction of where Yasaki lives, and they're going to windmill their arms. Ow! It's all part of the joke. That didn't hurt at all. They're going to windmill their arms, okay? Like this. Ow. Fuck. Okay, we're done with that bit. They're going to windwheel their arms, okay? Forward, like that, okay? And they're going to walk forward towards Yasaki, okay? And that's their strategy. They're not going to stop to eat. They're not going to stop to sleep. They're just going to walk forward with both of their arms swinging in front of them, fucking Donkey Kong swinging punch charge up style, okay? Until they make contact with Yasaki and then kill him with their swinging fists, okay? And then you go up to them and you're like, hey, I think this is actually a really ineffective strategy for getting revenge for your family. Yasaki is a demon king. Don't you think you should, like, chill out and maybe train for a bit? And then the kid, the 16-year-old, he looks at you and he's like, I'm sorry, I'm not taking a moderate approach to revenge for my family, okay? Why would you want me to stop and do other things? Don't you want to pursue revenge now? Shouldn't we be doing this immediately? Like, you really gonna tell me that the way forward to revenge is by waiting for years? Are you telling me that? And then it keeps walking forward, you know? This is how I feel, arguing with some people. It's not a matter of... So here's the question, okay? That kid, he goes to Yasaki, he dies, of course. Was that kid pursuing his revenge strategy in the most principled way? I wouldn't even argue yes, because to me, it's only principled if you win. The principle only matters if you're victorious at the end of the day. You can't like nobody else works this way. There are people. Jimmy Dore does this. Sometimes Kyle Kulinski does this. I'm on to you. All right, I'm hungry for your bad arguments, Kyle. Where they'll argue as a matter of principle, but principle doesn't matter if you're only talking about methods which are ineffective. You know? Like, you guys know what I mean, right? I feel like I'm talking about this like a dumbass, but you understand what I'm talking about, right? It's there are people who idealize the aesthetic of progress by doing as much as you can, as immediately as you can. But if the outcome of that effort is a setback, is a loss, you are trading the aesthetic of progress for the reality of a setback. For me, I don't care about the aesthetic. Listen, we can LARP about revolution all day. If we could quietly oh God, I've said this before. If we can sell socialism as super capitalism, okay? Listen up, y'all. You've had regular capitalism and all the wealth just goes to the corporations. These fat cats just sit up there in their big old desk. They don't do shit, okay? I'm selling you super capitalism. Super capitalism is so invested in private enterprise that every single individual actually collectively owns a portion of the workplace they work at. You're a McDonald's fry chef, man. That's your part of your business, son. That's you now. Super capitalism. In addition, I am so in favor of market incentives and market forces that I reject the private ownership of any industry which interferes with the function of those market forces. Transportation, healthcare, these are inelastic markets, dumb fuck. Super capitalism. And if we do that and we get socialism past their super capitalism and everyone wears big fucking 10-gallon hats and gigantic belt buckles and everyone walks with their legs 4 feet apart for the rest of their lives, I win. I win. I win. Nobody ever has to say Marx. Nobody ever has to say socialism. Nobody ever has to, no, we don't have to acknowledge any of the underlying methodology or none of that. We don't, I win. I don't care about the aesthetic. And I don't care about the aesthetic of AOC and the squad holding the Democrats in Congress hostage over a meaningless a posturing vote that will only serve to make us look ineffective and in opposition to the party. Which, and by the way, you don't want us to look in opposition to the party, because if we look like we're in opposition to the party, Democrat voters aren't going to give us the time of day. Is there something else they should challenge for? Right now, I don't think progressives in Congress have the weight or the momentum to meaningfully challenge them on something like Medicare for all. Now, there are lighter issues. Can we think of, like, what about, like, a stimulus bill? Or what about, like, a federal bill with regards to funding or tax policy tied to the performance of police departments? Or higher minimum wage? Or free colleges pushing it. But there are things, if it's too big, there's no shot of it working. But if they're successful in pushing for a substantive type of reform, UBI is too big. Think smaller than that, okay? Keep in mind how big Medicare for All is. Medicare for All, big Medicare for All is big. That's a big system. You're fundamentally radically restructuring the way our healthcare industry works. And that's good, and I support it, but you have to recognize there are limits to what the squad is capable of posturing over. You get it, right? You get what I'm saying? Look, I'm sympathetic, not to Jimmy Dore. Fuck Jimmy Dore. I'm sympathetic to people who agree with Jimmy Dore because I want action. I want people like AOC to be getting these hot points. But the thing is, wanting it doesn't mean it's going to work, and I don't want it to happen if it's going to not work, if it's going to do the opposite of work. There are consequences to failure. You don't get to just try over and over and over again. Every time you do something like this, you expend political capital, of which you have a finite amount. The media will not be kind to progressive Democrats who seem as though they're acting out of their own personal political agendas rather than in line with the party. We need to be careful about this. We need to be very careful, okay? We need to be smart and strategic. I swear, none of you all motherfuckers, what you need to do is you need to read up on Lenin, okay? Lenin did a lot of sneaky shit back in the day. That's what you got to do. Lenin did a lot of sneaky shit. Lenin didn't just like, communism, no! And like sprint towards Moscow. That dude spent like decades, like, navigating the incredibly complicated political landscape of like pre-revolutionary Russia. He robbed banks. Yeah, he did a lot of wacky stuff. He was a very sneaky political boy. And he would have arguments with people to the effect of, and Lenin would say this, I don't do the things that I do off principle. I do what I think will work. And I agree with that. Because based Lenin was a utilitarian, you know? Well, I don't really know. But Lenin's a wacky guy. He did a lot of bad stuff. But just keep that in mind, okay? Why do you have to say things that are true but also hurt so bad? Politics hurts. Politics isn't like that French painting at a revolution with that girl with the titty out, okay? Politics is exhausting, complicated, often counterproductive. Politics is difficult, okay? Don't get into politics if you're looking for big, unambiguous victories, all right? We don't get those. We're anti-establishment. Establishment types get those, okay? Trump supporters get those because they can elect fucking billionaire plutocrat pedophiles into office, okay? They get their rallies. They get their big, unambiguous cheers. We don't get that. We chose the hard team. You booted up life and chose very hard in the difficulty options, okay? And this is the consequence of that, okay? You ever played an RTS or like a shooter or whatever? You think you're going to win on very hard difficulty, fucking charging into the enemy with your starting 6 workers? No, dumbass, okay? You gotta fucking chill. You gotta chill, okay? You can only win with some highly strategic shit, and sometimes by exploiting game glitches, okay? Do you think Kyle Kalinske is a grifter? No, not at all. No. I've talked to Kyle Kalinske. I disagree with some of the stuff Kyle says and does. I don't think he's a grifter at all. Keep in mind, grifter doesn't mean has bad thoughts. Grifter means deliberately misrepresents their positions for political or for monetary gain. And I don't think Kyle's that at all. Yeah, we need that instant socialism glitch. You see, if you walk up to a stone wall, turn 45 degrees to your left, and then side skip while raising up and reading the Communist Manifesto, the game load of the text graphic will actually glitch you through the wall. Then you're out of bounds. From there, you're free to proceed over to the White House, where if you actually sneak in a dialogue option during one of the president's sleepy nap times, you can inception implant political messaging into his brain, and shortly thereafter, instant socialism. Easy. It's actually very difficult to pull off. They were doing it in AGDQ for a little while, but it was like an 18-hour run, so yeah. There's a lot of game references in this fucking segment. This segment's not going to appeal to anybody who hasn't So much for the normies. Jeez.